children. Long live to all of you for coming here to defend this inalienable right. In Iran, Tehran bus workers demanding their rights have been arrested, including some of their wives and even children, and some tortured. In Yemen, Mohammad al-Asadi, an editor, is facing execution for recounting how Mohammad approved of the killing of a woman who had insulted him. In Afghanistan, teachers defending the rights of girls to go to school are threatened with death. In Iraq, women's rights activists are threatened for demanding equality and freedom. In Iran, journalists who published a satirical article comparing the advent of Khomeini and Ahmadinejad to AIDS are languishing in prison. The list is endless. Too many more nameless, faceless human beings across the globe are maimed, threatened, killed, bound, gagged for speaking out and expressing themselves. And it's not just over there, but right here. A website in Sweden publishing the Mohammad caricatures is shut down. Editors in France are fired. The Bestie play is shut down after Sikhs are offended by it. A Scottish cancer charity is intimidated into not accepting money raised by Jerry Springer the opera. Writers, including myself, living and writing here, are threatened to death by Umma.net. Clearly, free speech and expression are not luxuries or Western values. They are essential for people everywhere. And that more and more people like you and me are standing up and saying, after government upon government and organization upon organization demanded apologies for the Mohammad caricatures, and then gave them on our behalf, is that freedom of speech and freedom of expression is not for sale. We know better. Any limits on free speech and expression are really attempts by those in power or vying for power to limit our rights and the rights of the population at large. Don't be duped into thinking otherwise. And that is why the defense of free speech and expression are so intrinsically linked to the defense of other rights. You cannot defend one without the others. You cannot defend one without also defending the right to asylum, without defending the rights for labor rights and workers' rights, without defending women's rights and children's rights, the right to live in a secular society, the right to equality and freedom, universal rights, the right to religion and atheism and belief as a private matter, the right to live lives worthy of the 21st century, and of course vice versa. You cannot defend humanity without defending its right to speak and express itself. For this, nothing can be deemed sacred except the human being. Defining certain expressions and speech as sacred is merely a tool for the suppression of society. Saying speech and expression offends is an attempt to restrict it. And of course, what is held most sacred and deemed to offend the most, especially in this new world order, is criticizing and ridiculing religion and its representatives on earth. Why do it if it offends? Because it must be done. Because ridiculing is a form of criticism. It's a form of resistance. It's a serious form of opposing reaction. While yes, we may all be sometimes offended by something. It is religion and the religious that are offended all of the time. They alone seem to have a monopoly on being offended, saying their beliefs are a no-go area and silencing all those who offend. And don't think this reactionary right-wing movement, and I'm speaking here about political Islam because it is a movement that has state power, is only offended by the criticism of Islam or by Mohammad caricatures. It is offended if you hold hands on the streets. It is offended if you have sex outside of marriage. It is offended if you are unveiled or improperly veiled. It is offended if you listen to some sort of music, or if you teach evolution and science, or if you dare to teach girls. It is offended if you are gay. It is offended if you are a woman. Many of which by the way, are punishable by death in states under the rule of Islam. It is interesting how the political Islamic movement kills, it maims, it humiliates with Islam as its banner, and we are not even allowed to ridicule and criticize it. Religion considers a woman as worth half a man, gays as perversion, sex outside of marriage as sinful, but it is a few caricatures that are offensive. Offensive or not, sacred or not, religion and superstition, Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, Judaism, Scientology, and on must be open to all forms of criticism and ridicule. It must be first and foremost because religion is not something from eras past, but because it is a political movement wreaking havoc across the globe. Not a second passes without some atrocity being committed by it. It hangs people from cranes and lampposts in city centers. It still stones people to death in the 21st century. With its laws even specifying the size of the stone to be used in the stoning. It amputates, it decapitates. It must be criticized, it must be ridiculed, because that is how throughout history reaction has been pushed back. That is how throughout history society has managed to advance and progress. Why? Why should this be seen as an attack on Muslims, or Christians, or Sikhs, or Scientologists per se is beyond me. It's an attack on the belief and practice of female genital mutilation, an attack on girls who have been mutilated. No. It's a criticism of the Israeli state terrorism, an attack on Jews. No. It's an attack on the BNP that promotes Christian culture, or has established the Christian Council of Britain, or the ridiculing of Jesus. Is that racism against Christians? No. Of course not. And the same applies to criticizing the Muslim Council of Britain, Hamas, the Islamic regime in Iran, and Mohammad caricaturizing him, ridiculing and criticizing Islam. Islamophobia, and by the way, the Christian Church has also asked that Christianity phobia be included in the language of the UN rights terminology. This is not racism, because criticizing a religion, an idea, a belief, and the practices that come from those beliefs, even having a phobia or a hatred of a belief, has nothing to do with racism against real life human beings. Saying so is merely part of the effort to make it such, in order to silence any criticism of religion and the political movement that holds it up as its banner. Well, sorry, no can do. The world is today threatened and taken hostage by two poles of international terrorism. terrorism. The state terrorism led by the United States on the one hand, and the Islamic terrorism on the other. They share a lot more than they let on. After all, they were former friends, and many of them still are. Both use religion to attack the gains made by humanity in centuries past. Both defend religion and use it. Freedom of speech and expression are one of the few means at the disposal of many to resist this terrorism and its attack on universal values and norms. We must defend it unconditionally. There can be no ifs and buts. Long live freedom of speech and expression.